My name is Kim Annis, and I am a bear management specialist with Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, FWP. I primarily work within the Cabinet Yaak grizzly bear ecosystem, based out of Libby, Montana, for FWP's Region 1. I have a bachelor's degree in wildlife ecology and management from the State University of New York College of Environmental Science and Forestry, and a master's degree in carnivore ecology from the University of Florida. Over the past 2 decades, I have worked with waterfowl, ungulates, reptiles, bats, carnivores, and passerines across the United States, but have been working primarily with bears since 2002. I have been a grizzly bear specialist for FWP in Libby since 2007. Extreme northwest Montana is a montane ecosystem, a vast conifer forest dominated by larch, fir, hemlock, pine, and spruce trees. This forested mountainous area receives more than 20 inches of rainfall per year, has a moist and cool climate, and an understory layers dominated by berry-producing shrubs, such as huckleberries, serviceberries, and mountain ash. All major mountain creeks and streams of the Purcell, Cabinet, or Salish mountain ranges flow into the Kootenai River, the Yaak River, or the Clark Fork River, all of which ultimately flow west into the Columbia River. The Cabinet Mountains Wilderness Area encompasses approximately 150 square miles of wild country in the higher elevations of the Cabinet Mountains. A vast portion of this mountainous, timbered area is public land administered by the Kootenai and Lolo National Forests, with remaining timberlands privately owned by 2 large timber companies. Private land ownership and towns lie primarily along the narrow river valleys and creek bottoms. There are 11 rural communities scattered throughout the area, most consisting of just several hundred people. Historically, timber and hard rock mining was the primary focus for many residents, but small-scale ranching and hobby farms exists in the area today as well. At fewer than 60 grizzly bears, the Cabinet Yaak ecosystem grizzly bear population has the smallest grizzly bear population in Montana. A typical day when the bears are awake usually consists of responding to residents' concerns about a bear. I spend a lot of my time driving to people's homes and then helping them mitigate their concerns about a bear or bears. Often, I prevent a conflict between bears and people by helping residents secure the things around their home or businesses that are likely to attract unwanted attention from a bear. Sometimes, I am helping a resident after a conflict has already occurred. My primary tools to resolve human-bear conflicts are electrified fencing and bear-resistant containers, plus education about normal bear behavior, life history, and how they can prevent future conflicts with bears. Occasionally, it becomes necessary to trap and relocate or kill a bear. Some days are filled with participating in outreach events, such as a local festival or fair, or traveling to schools to teach about bears. During the months when bears are asleep for the winter, I take training classes to keep up to date on my wildlife handling skills or computer software skills. I write reports, compile the previous year's data, and attend bear manager meetings. Even though my job duties are technically bear-related, I work in a rural area with few people trained to safely respond to calls about wildlife in general. Therefore, I also respond to calls about other wildlife, such as non-target wildlife in traps or injured wildlife. I also assist other biologists with localized research projects, such as collaring mule deer or surveying for black swifts. I enjoy working with and helping the people of Montana, particularly helping them resolve or prevent issues with wildlife. I love living in and working with my small communities, surrounded by vast mountains, forested wilderness, and undeveloped wild areas. I like the variety I have in my day-to-day schedule. No 2 days are the same, and you never know exactly what you might be doing from one day to the next. The challenge of the job is the same as what I like about it. Helping people resolve and prevent conflicts with the wildlife we live among can be very challenging. Every person has differing values when it comes to wildlife, and some values do not align with the desire to keep bears upon the landscape. Grizzly bears can evoke strong emotions in people, everything from intense fear or hatred to a deep adoration for the species itself. The challenge is to effectively work with all these different values and emotions while keeping both bears and people safe across the region. One of the biggest challenges in this region is that this grizzly bear population is the smallest in the state. And to reach recovery goals, this population needs to double in size. The other grizzly bear populations in Montana have already grown and expanded to the point at which they are ready to have the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service remove them from the Endangered Species Act. The Cabinet yak population is still many years away, perhaps 20 or more, from reaching its recovery goals. Public understanding of these major population differences is challenging. Another challenge in this region is that most residents have domestic fruiting trees immediately around their homes. Many of these trees have gone wild, and the fruit is no longer utilized by people. However, they are a big attractant during the fall months for bears of both species. It is challenging to communicate to residents that allowing bears to feed from fruiting trees in yards is the same as allowing a bear access to a songbird feeder, dog food, or garbage. It teaches bears to seek out food near people and creates behaviors in bears that people find unacceptable. It is unreasonable to expect electrified fencing to be placed around every domestic fruiting tree to prevent conflicts with a bear or to cut these trees down. This is one of the areas where we need new ideas and solutions on how to prevent conflicts between people and bears regarding fruit trees. Major stakeholders include the timber harvest industry, underground silver and copper mining industry, small-scale and hobby ranchers, hunters, anglers, hikers, outdoor recreationists, local land use advocacy groups, and community leaders. I hope students will provide us a unique and different perspective toward the challenges of living and working amongst grizzly bears. In the summer of 2017, Canadian wildlife biologists trapped and relocated a pair of female grizzly bear siblings from the town of Creston, British Columbia, to the U.S.-Canada border. The siblings had previously been going from residence to residence, eating grasses and actively choosing to hang out near people in heavily populated areas. Within days after being relocated, the bears found residences in the Montana side of the border and continued the same behaviors. The situation was discussed between Montana and Canadian officials, and it was agreed to capture the siblings again and separate them. Separating siblings can sometimes change some of their learned and undesirable behaviors. Sometimes it is just one of the siblings that is making all the decisions for the pair. One of the siblings was sent back to Canada and released in a remote area far north of the U.S.-Canada border. The other was relocated a short distance away from its second capture location in Montana. Caller location information showed us where these two bears traveled after their second relocation. Both bears traveled extensively. One returned on foot to Creston, BC within 2 months, and the other was struck and killed by a vehicle crossing a highway. Relocating bears doesn't always work the way humans want it to. Relocation cannot change a behavior a bear has already learned. It is far easier to prevent bears from wanting to be among people than it is to change their behavior after it happens.